Hello and welcome to another edition of the China in Africa podcast, a proud member of the Sinica Podcast Network. I'm Eric Olander. Kobus is away in Zambia this week at a conference, so unfortunately he couldn't join us for today's episode, but he will be back next week with us for our regular pairing and that we've been doing all these years. Today we're going to be focusing on infrastructure and specifically on roads in Africa. Now, this is a major talking point every 3 years at the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation gatherings that happen. Remember, they happen 1 year in an African country and then another year back in China. And one of the major talking points that comes out every single time is that they talk about how Chinese companies in various forms, either as a contractor, either as a lender, either as a supplier, have helped African countries, and I'm quoting here, to build or upgrade nearly 100,000 kilometers of highways over the past quarter century. Now, all of this emphasis on Chinese road building, number one, not unique to Africa. It's something that they do both at home in their own development story and also abroad as well in places like Southeast Asia, South America, around the world. But Africa has benefited more than other regions. Again, 100,000 kilometers is an enormous amount of roadways that have either been built or financed or somehow Chinese contractors have contributed to. All of this is anchored in a philosophy that can be best summed up in a Chinese saying, and you'll hear this on Chinese, social media, and you'll hear Chinese ambassadors talk about it. You'll also see that this is again a major talking point. And the saying goes, if you want to get rich, build a road first. And this really speaks to the Chinese mindset on development. It is the same theory and mindset and philosophy that they've used in their own development trajectory over the past 40, 50 years. Anybody who spent time in China, especially in the 80s and 90s, will know that the road networks and the infrastructure was terrible. And what's happened over the past 4 or 5 decades is that China truly does have some of the most advanced, most sophisticated infrastructure anywhere in the world. And it's rooted again in this philosophy that if you build this road, the prosperity will come. And what they mean by that is that by building a road, say, from rural communities into the cities, it enables then farmers to transport goods to customers in the cities. It allows for tourism to happen. It allows for roadside shops to happen. It allows for a whole economy to set up around these roads. It facilitates trade, investment, education, healthcare. Everything passes over a road. And when we're talking about Africa, and most countries in Africa, today, as anybody who spent any amount of time there will know, roads are a particularly sensitive issue. It's one of the points of major frustrations that people have, that the roadways in many countries are still not developed, and what is developed oftentimes is not developed well, and it really just slows down the whole pace of life if you can't get from point A to point B on a good road, especially in the rainy season. So we thought it would be an interesting experiment to put this saying to the test. And for that, we reached out to our old friend of CGSP, Raphael Mweninguwe, who is a reporter in Malawi and joining us from Lilongwe. And we tasked him to look at 2 roads in particular that Chinese either grant money or construction was involved with. And we're thrilled to have on the show for the first time, but a longtime contributor to CGSP, Raphael. A very good afternoon to you, Raphael.
Good afternoon, Eric.
It's wonderful to finally have you on the program. Again, you've been writing for us for many years, and you came to us with this idea to talk about roads, and I brought up this proverb, if you want to get rich, build a road first. And there's no better place than Malawi to do this, in part because Malawi is one of the poorest countries in the world. The World Bank estimates that about 70% of the 20 million people in your country live in extreme poverty, and about 80% are tied to the agricultural sector. And roads are especially important in agriculture. Maybe before we get into the details about the story that you wrote and this question about Chinese road building, maybe you could tell us a little bit about Malawi, because I think a lot of our listeners and viewers may be unfamiliar with this small country, but yet at the same time that is, has a lot of very particular characteristics to it.
Thanks a lot. Malawi is really a very small country. It's located in southern Africa, and it's a country that has a population of around 20 million people as of now. It's a country that depends largely on agriculture for its economic survival. In terms of the population that is living in the rural areas, about around 80%, and with 60% of those are involved in agriculture production. So Malawi is a country, according to, as you have said, that the World Bank estimates that about 70% of its population are living in poverty. And because of that, majority of them are living from hand to mouth, and the economy, of course, is not running properly. So many of them, they are relying on things like farming and the very small other activities like the income generating activities like selling small things on the road and those things. So that's how Malawi is all about.
And what is the infrastructure like? What are the roads there like?
Currently, the infrastructure is in a state of pathetic in most of the areas. But as of now, I should say that the Chinese government has really pumped in a lot of funds. If you come to Lilongwe, Lilongwe has changed its face in terms of the road infrastructure. We have a 6 lane that is now completed. We have the dual carriage road that is almost completed. And in addition to that, there's an M1 road that is currently connecting the whole country from Chitipa to Sanje. But currently, the Chinese have funded the construction of roads within the capital, and also there are contractors from China who are working on the M1 road from the capital city, which is Lilongwe, up to the north, which is Kalonga. Within that road network from the capital city, we have we have about 3, 4 Chinese contractors that are working on that. So China has really changed the face of Africa, in Malawi to be particular, in terms of roads infrastructure. Not only that, this is not the first time that China is funding roads construction in Malawi. In 2013, the then President Joyce Banda opened a road from Kalonga to Chitipa. This is the M6 road. And then it was deemed as one of the best roads, and that would connect people between the two districts. Before that road was constructed, people were taking so long to reach test. For example, if somebody is traveling from Chitipa to Karonga, which is the north, these two districts are the northern part of Malawi and the border Tanzania up north. Now, if someone is traveling from Chitipa to Karonga and Karonga to Chitipa, would take about 6 hours on the way. In some cases, they could even sleep on the road. But with the construction, it meant that most of the travelers they're now taking about an hour or two before reaching the destination of the two districts. So I would say that the road infrastructure in Malawi, especially the Kalonga Chitipa road, has really changed the way people operate in terms of businesses, people visit places and tourism. So it has really helped, so to speak.
Okay. Let's get into the details a little bit of some of these roads that you've talked about, and there's two in particular that we want to address. One is the M1, and the other one is the M26. These are the two roads that the Chinese either financed through grants or were involved in construction. I'd like you to maybe just briefly just tell us a little bit about what was there before the construction started. We'll get to the after part later, but I just maybe set the scene for us on, let's start with the M1 and what was life like before for roadside businesses, for people using and transporting on that road. Tell us a little bit about the before, and then we'll talk about the after.
Before the construction started on the M1 road, this is the road that goes up to the north. People traveling on this road had terrible, some of them had terrible accidents in terms of the road was too bad.
And
in
was it a
addition
dirt
to
road or was it paved?
it was literally dirt road, not really paved, because the issue that it was tarmacked initially. but the tire went off. So it meant that even travelers, those who are driving, while running away from the pothole, they would maybe hit each other on the way. So it had a lot of accidents. In addition to that, even people were afraid of traveling because they were afraid of causing accidents. In addition to that, in terms of businesses, it meant that many people were not having their clients on the road because people would rather go set their business along the road when they see that there's a lot of customers passing by. So in this situation, it meant that even those who were selling their wares along this road, they could not do so because there were no clients passing by. So because of that, even those that were traveling between from smaller hospitals going to referral hospitals like Lilongwe, Kamuzu Central Hospital, which is the biggest central hospital in Central Region. So people around the districts, around the region, they could not be travel well if they are referred from Zuzu, which is the north, coming to Lilongwe. It means even some were dying on the way. Why? Because the road was bad, it was bumpy. And if a patient is very serious, it meant that even reaching Lilongwe was even, it's just like somebody will be dependent on prayers. Say, maybe I will reach in Lilongwe. Why? Because
And
the road was not okay. Yes.
are most people driving on the road in buses? Are they using cars? Or are they on motorbikes? Or a little bit of all?
Majority of the population in Malawi, they use public transport like buses and the minibuses. And those who are using personal vehicles, they're very few. The numbers are not all that. I cannot say that they're more than even 1% of the population. But many of the travelers, they use public transport like buses and minibuses. So we had a lot of breakdown on the way. And if there's a lot of breakdown on the way, it means that travelers were delayed. And even those that were going to the hospitals, they were also affected. So that was the situation before these roads were constructed. It's why I said one road. And it's a busy
Okay.
road. Yeah.
So the Chinese come in and they say, listen, we can build roads really well. In fact, we've built tens of thousands of kilometers of roads across Africa and around the world, and hundreds of thousands of kilometers of roads at home in their own country. Obviously, in Malawi, this is going to be something very appealing, given what you've talked about in terms of the quality of the road infrastructure that was there. When those Chinese came in to finance some of these things, did they do it through debt and loans, or did they do it through grants?
The road that is now currently has just been finished in the Lilongwe is purely a grant. It's not a
It's a
loan.
grant.
And
Okay, so
it's a
there's no
grant.
debt involved in
And
this, what we're talking about.
there's no
That's not
debt.
the
There's no
case in
debt.
all African countries, but in particular in Malawi, we're talking about grants that do not have to be repaid and do not add to the country's debt burden, correct?
No. In this particular laws I'm talking about, is purely a grant, according to the
Okay.
information that I have. And
Okay.
that's why even the government has really appreciated what the Chinese are doing currently in this country in terms of road infrastructure. Yes.
Okay. So now you've set up for us that the road infrastructure was very poor. It's very dangerous. I think it's probably even worse during the rainy season. And there's clearly a need. The Chinese, they come in and build the road. Now we get to test the proverb. Did things improve on the M1 and even the M26 after the road came in? And talk to us a little bit about what the situation was like after the road. And you actually went to these communities to talk to some of the small business owners, a lot of the women who are selling produce on the side of the road. Tell us a little bit about their stories and what the road brought them.
First of all, I will start telling about the story of the M26 road. Because this is the road that is passing through hilly places. And most of the people who were traveling those roads, it was a risky road. And sometimes people would travel on foot. And an area that it was full of wildlife. So wild animals could also pass through those areas. Now, because of the road being busy, it means even the wild animals were even scared of even passing through those areas because it's tarmac road. And most of the businesses made would not even go through those roads previously when the roads were not there. And there was no economic activities that was taking place. But now, with this road now coming in, and it's like businesses have boomed. And they boomed because everybody now is able to go along the road and build a small infrastructure like a business way. And then the business structure, so they would put in their either groceries, or they would put in anything that they want to sell. Why they are going and they are selling those products near the road is because they want their customers to see the products, and then they would stop and sell and buy. So that is the one of the things that has really changed the economic status of the population or the communities along the M26 road, even on the M1 road. Now, what I would like to say that probably we do not expect the way we would have loved, the way the road would have changed the economic lives of the communities. There are a number of factors that are involved in especially changing the real lives of the communities. Why the people are really willing to sell their products along the road, or whatever they want to do, to go to one place to another place. There are other factors that are not really connected to the Chinese themselves, but these are just factors that are arising from the economic situations of the country. For example, I'll give an example of fuel shortages. So fuel shortages is also increasing the cost of transportation. The road is good, but now the cost of transporting goods from one place to another to the market is high. So even the producers, or the sellers of the products, they're also complaining that no, we cannot make out of money. Why this is not now? It's limiting and the amount of money these community or the people, the traders to make, because they are also spending out of money on it, and then it means that they are also not making out of profits. Why is because of it? But this is not a Chinese made
Yeah,
factor.
very clear that those are domestic issues, totally separate from what the Chinese were doing. A lot of people, particularly critics of China, will use a trope that says that the Chinese roads and the Chinese infrastructure and the quality is not very good. It falls apart very quickly. What has been your experience looking at the M1 and the M26 in terms of the quality? Has it withstood the durability challenge of the rains, the buses, the dirt, and all the challenges that come with maintaining a road in Malawi?
For the roads that are in the capital city and the M1 road, I have seen it and I have passed the road, so and the quality of the road is just quite good compared maybe with the M26 road. But the road that is in the capital city and the road that starts from the capital city right up to the north, the M1 road, where even the picture that I showed you it looks to me it's a good road. And also at one point, the Minister of Transport, Jacob Bala, when he visited, he took journalists across to see what the Chinese have done in terms of the roads, and he appreciated that these roads are very strong. And there is an estimate that these roads will take probably for government of Mali to start maintaining them. They may take about 50 years from now, but they look very strong. Unlike the M26 roads, of course, because of the a lot of traffic, a lot of people traveling along, the M26 road has also not necessarily that it has many potholes, but it's just like on the sides of the roads, there's like the need of maintaining it. Because that maintenance is not the duty of the Chinese. The Chinese have just built the road and they're handed over
That's
to the
right.
government.
They build it, but the
So
maintenance is up to the local government to take care of.
the local government. So some of these things, if there's no maintenance, then you see that even the roads itself is not going to last long. I'll give an example of these roads. You know, when the Chinese build these roads, they also put synergies on the old way, the signposts. So you find that even the local Malawians, some of them, they're even cutting those signposts and stealing them. So you find that it's not only the government that is responsible, but also the community themselves who are using those roads, they also must be responsible in terms of maintaining the roads. So sometimes we may not say blame the Chinese for the roads that maybe the damage may start much area, but because maybe as a population, we are also not responsible enough in terms of taking care of the road that Chinese have given us.
Sure. And just to be clear here, are the Chinese the only ones building roads in Malawi, or are Europeans, South Africans, Malawians themselves also building roads, or is this predominantly a Chinese activity?
No, we also have other contractors who are doing a construction. Like we have the Motor Angel. Motor Angel is a Portuguese company.
Yeah.
Yes, it
A
has
third
been
owned by
in
the
Malawi.
Chinese, by the way.
Yes, it has been in Malawi for quite a long time, and it was involved in the roads construction in many places in Malawi. We also have the local contractors in Malawi as well who are involved. For example, the M1 road moving from Kasungu, which is a district in the central region, up to Mzimba, which is the northern region. That area is given to a local contractor. So we have the 3 Chinese contractor in the M1 road going up north, but there are 4 contractors. One of them is the local contractor. So you see, there are a number of contractors, but Chinese now, I think they have so many infrastructure development works going on. It's not only the M1 road, there are other roads that the Chinese are involved. So we have them in the lower Chile, in the south of the country bordering Mozambique. There's a railway line. There's a railway company that is a Chinese company, is also involved in the roads infrastructure. So we have quite a number of Chinese companies involved in that.
So I want to go back to the premise of the article that you wrote for us. And by the way, it's over on our website. You can see Chinese built roads in Malawi bring hope, but not the riches many expected. And again, the story's complicated, as Raphael's talking about, that the roads can help bring prosperity, but there are other factors, domestic factors, fuel prices, other things that complicate the road to prosperity. But to test this premise, if you want to get rich, build a road first, as the Chinese proverb goes. Raphael, in your assessment, after spending 2 weeks looking at the M1 and the M26, what is your conclusion if whether or not that proverb is true?
My own conclusion is that the proverb is true. And it's really true, and it really works, especially as I said earlier, if we are going to sustain the benefits that the Chinese roads are giving us. So my conclusion is that this proverb is really true.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your excellent reporting. The story, again, is going to be in our show notes. I'll put it down there, a link there, and also on our site. And this is the kind of reporting that we're doing from places like Malawi at the China Global South Project to try and really give you an on-the-ground experience and understanding of these complex issues that go beyond some of the more simple narratives that we see in the international media, and from amazing journalists like Raphael. Raphael Mweninguwe is an independent journalist based in Malawi who has been writing for us for many years. So if you go onto our website and you click his name, you'll see some of the work that he's done on China, Africa, and China, Malawi agriculture, as well as now this fantastic story and some beautiful pictures, by the way, as well, about whether or not, if you want to get rich, build a road first applies in Malawi. And as we've heard from Raphael, it absolutely does. Raphael, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks you, Eric, and I appreciate for having me on this podcast.
We'll be back again next week with another episode of the China in Africa podcast. If you'd like to support the work that we're doing here at CGSP, the best way you can do that is go to ChinaGlobalSouth.com/subscribe and sign up for a subscription. If you are a student or a teacher, remember, we have half off rates for you, only $10 a month. Email me, eric@ChinaGlobalSouth.com, and I will send you the links for those discount codes. And we just want to give a big shout out to all of our funders, our donors, and who people are on the website. There's a little donor button there. And we're just so grateful to people hitting that and giving us $5 a month, $6 a month, supporting independent journalism, fact-based, agenda-free coverage of what China's doing in Africa, Asia, Latin America, and around the world. And so just also want to give a big shout out to our Patreon supporters as well, because this work could not be possible without you and all of your support. So for the entire team around the world at the China Global South Project, thank you so much for taking the time to watch and to listen. We'll be back again next week with another episode of the China in Africa podcast. Until then, thanks so much for watching and for listening.